How did we get to this point? And it's going to get much worse. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I am merely speaking to what I see. There is no way I will fulfill my purpose without offending people. I've lost friends, I've lost clients. I piss off a lot of my friends, and that's fine. The truth must be told, whether people like it or not.
Tonight I think of my home, the home where I was born. I think of my family and the poor farmhouse we had.
To a very large extent, our tragedies are foretold, and they are easily foretold. All you actually have to do is look at where we are, what we are doing in the season we are in, and the likely effect of our actions and inactions, and it becomes very easy to say exactly what would happen next. We are a hard-headed people. We are ruled by a system that is unrepentantly evil, and the people themselves, unfortunately, do not appear to have a clear understanding of cause and effect. I don't want to end up being tagged the prophet of doom. But in a situation where you have a oil-producing country that loses the entire value in the value chain, faced with multiple levels of wastages, in a world where world oil prices are rising and Nigeria's fortune should be on the up, what we are faced with is a country that cannot even meet its own energy.
The thought he was about to finish there is that what we are faced with is a country that cannot even meet its own oil needs. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fred Wanko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. And as usual, I like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. So now let's think about it. This morning, we woke up to hear that Nigeria's prime activist, Dele Farotimi, was arrested. And it's obvious why he was arrested. There is a demonstration, a massive nationwide demonstration that's being planned. Dele Farotimi has been talking about this protest, but Dele Farotimi has been expressly saying that he wants this protest to be peaceful. No, not in Nigeria. They don't want a peaceful process. They want to shut everybody up and make sure nobody says anything. There are several reports out there about the arrest, but here is one that I like. It says we must ask, what does this say about a system that fears criticism more than injustice? How can Nigeria claim to uphold democracy while criminalizing dissent and weaponizing state institutions against the citizens? Arresting critics is not enough. It is the ultimate admission of fear. We demand the immediate release of Dele Farotimi and a transparent investigation into this abuse of power. Defamation should never serve as an excuse for arbitrary detention, and no Nigerian should live in fear of speaking truth to power. Let us stand together against oppression and injustice. A nation that silences its critics is a nation on the brink of tyranny. Today, the Nigerian police arrested renowned human rights lawyer and author of a recent book titled Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System, Dele Farotimi, for alleged defamation charges. Shockingly, his whereabouts remain unknown. This is not just an attack on Dele Farotimi, but a blatant assault on freedom of speech, human rights, and the rule of law in Nigeria. Defamation cases as established by the by President are civil matters meant to be resolved in a court of law, not through police intimidation. The case of the Falanas and Very Dark Man demonstrated that legal disputes over defamation should follow due process. Arresting a critic and human rights advocate reflects a misuse of power and an attempt to silence dissent. Dele Farotimi's arrest is emblematic of the oppression faced by many Nigerians who dare to speak out against systemic injustice and corruption. This action is a grim reminder of the growing authoritarian tendencies within the country, where critics of the elite are met with force instead of dialogue. Folks, can you now see why it makes sense when you have somebody like Dele Farotimi say that you have to be functionally insane to remain in Nigeria? I live out here. Sometimes when I say certain bold things, people in Nigeria tell me, oh, you live in America, why don't you come and say it there? I'm not coming. However, what he's saying is the truth. You have to be functionally insane to live in that country, because if somebody as big as Dele Farotimi can be picked up and they're doing this to him, think about somebody like me who has no contacts, no connections, no godfathers and all that. They'll pick me up at the airport. You'll never see me again. It's shameful. And the real shame is not the crooks who have hijacked the government. The real shame are the people, Nigerians, especially Nigerian bigots, who support those crooks to be doing the things they do. Dele Farotimi rightfully said in a book he wrote so many years ago, do not die in their war. And this is why I always doff my hat to him. He cautions us not to die in their war, but he sticks his head out, fighting for the ordinary man. The same ordinary man who are now wonder if they are going to come out and fight for Dele Farotimi. That's the Nigeria we live in. And for all those people who support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Bayo Onanugas, who are the ones who don't like what Dele Farotimi is saying. If Dele Farotimi were Fred Nwankwo, I can understand why you stay mute. For the Yoruba bigots that support Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is Bola Ahmed Tinubu more Yoruba than Dele Farotimi? Is a drug dealer something to be more proud of by Yorubas than a highly qualified lawyer who fights for the interest of the people? You don't have to answer that question. It is food for thought for all Yorubas, especially my Yoruba friends who stay mute and watch Bola Ahmed Tinubu destroy Nigeria. It's time for us, all Nigerians at all levels, to really start to understand that as much as we criticize Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Dele Farotimi is right when he says, I thank God for Tinubu, because Tinubu exposed Nigeria's bigots. Tinubu exposed Nigerians that like to sit down with you and say all the honky-dory things that are the right sound bites. But when it comes to fighting for fairness and equity in Nigeria, they'll side a drug dealer simply because he's from their tribe. every one of them, one by one, should be ashamed of themselves. And I say this so bluntly because I more or less say to put some food for thought in your head. And finally, I always find a way to bring the Igbo thing back to it because I like to rub it in your faces. For 50 plus years, you've sat back, pretended you don't see the atrocities that go on against your fellow Nigerians who you wine and dine with and do business with when it favors you. But when it's convenient for you and you see them being oppressed, you shy away and pretend you can't see it. Why am I so gung-ho on people like Dele Farotimi and Ayo Ademolekun and Rufai Oseni? Because they say the truth to whoever it needs to be said. When Igbos go wrong, they nail it hard. And the Igbo bigots will call them bigots for talking about Igbos when they're right. But when it's Yorubas who are wrong, they also say. When all this headache started in Nigeria, Dele Farotimi said the Igbos are better equipped for Nigeria. And it's true. Igbos are better equipped for Nigeria. Why do I bring it up? Because I want to flip it. This thing going on with Dele Farotimi, I thank God it's going on with the right person, because my hunch tells me that regardless of all the bigots out there in Yoruba land, Yoruba land is the headquarters of genuine activists that can stick their heads out. This is time for us, but especially the recognizable voices in Yoruba land, to stake their voices out and their heads out to fight for our brother, Dele Farotimi. For that, we know nothing is going to happen to him. It's a tactics they are using just to keep him out, so he's not talking while the people are demonstrating and firing them up to demonstrate. They just want him out of the way. But it's still jungle politics. Let's all come out and fight for Dele. Dele is fighting for us. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fred Wonko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with a very sad edition of Bull Talk on Allen TV. And until next time, good night and God bless.
Come back home at sundown. Sometimes to Lagos, where I am right now. Here in Lagos, no one cares for none. They fight and scramble for bosses